Okay, this is part two of that incident. Why I'm explaining to you Advantage Solutions. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain to you the whole story of what exactly happened with my case. The company I worked for is affiliated with Wellington Management. That company is in Boston, Massachusetts. And how this is related to some of these people, like Andrew and Tristan Tate. I had thefts happen. And I had to contact my old boss, who was an attorney named Michael Subaru. And I had to ask some of those people, like Thomas Schmidt and Miss Christine Cohan, who are attorneys that are in Florida, besides the one that's up in Columbia University. He's a law professor. And I had to ask them, I have houses. This has to do with your Andrew and Tristan Tate, which is a comedy festival. I have an apartment in the city in Manhattan. That's correct. My insurance is Preferred Mutual Insurance. I did research on this. When I looked up some of my information, I started noticing that a lot of those cases that has to do with President Trump's taxes is cartel or Russian oligarchy related. So I went into the city and I went to see Thomas Schmidt. Now I am bringing this up because it has to do with this guy, Sneeko. Now Sneeko doesn't know this. Well, Sneeko, first of all, that person that he is affiliated with, Andrew and Tristan Tate, those people are a pain in the neck. Andrew and Tristan Tate's lawyer should understand the first statement. Separation of powers. Segregation of powers. He doesn't live here. The judge first should start off with is, hey, Andrew and Tristan Tate, what exactly do you do for a living? He should ask, the lawyer should ask, what do you do for a living? The second thing Andrew and Tristan Tate should do is they should contact their accountant. And their accountant should say to those people, like the Cohan or Goldberg family, which is my relatives, hey, I would like to see the Florida state and federal government accounts. And you may say, hey, John, what does that have to do with Andrew and Tristan Tate? That has a lot to do with Andrew and Tristan Tate. Because the state attorney general would have to explain to half of my relatives. And the reason why I'm saying, why does this have to do with John or me? That has to do with me because some of those people had gotten scammed by some of your governments. See, apparently the funny part is I found out from Mr. Mosley, who's the New York Secretary of State, who doesn't want to answer phone calls unless it's an emergency. Well, I'm sorry, it's an emergency now when you're stealing from my relatives in the Grantner and Gaetjens family. Now, you may say, hey, John, what does that have to do with the United States government? That has plenty to do with the United States government because how are you running Blackguard and Vanguard? How are you running the BlackRock Vanguard system? You can't run it because I have majority shares in those accounts. That's the funny part because some of my relatives had to show me the accounts. I have trillions of dollars that at my disposal. Means a preferred stock. Means all this stuff to begin with that has to deal with that Advantage Solutions company. That company had to admit to me they're not even a legitimate company. ID.me is not even a legitimate company. So your systems in this country do not work. Not only do they not work, let me just explain to you, to the Secretary of State of Florida. How exactly are you doing commerce law with those two individuals? Do you want riots? I'm going to say this to that state attorney general, to that secretary of state, because that guy Stico doesn't get it. He doesn't understand commerce law. There's a thing called theft. You cannot commit bodily injury harm on anybody. So let me just explain to you something. There were certain accounts that I had that were down in Florida that some of your congressmen, some of your senators, I would love to have an explanation with them in a thing called religious court. Because as a Jewish person, I'm Jewish. I'm Sephardic. As a Jewish person, which is related to Andrew and Tristan Tate's matters, is how exactly are the first thing I would come out of my mouth is, how are you doing real estate? Because let me just explain to you something. I don't support what you call in the business a totalitarian government, a dictator type of government. And that's what your states are doing to citizens. Pull those shenanigans to the governor of Florida. I'm laughing at you. Pull those shenanigans to me in my state. You wouldn't have I'm going to be honest with you, to the Floridians. You wouldn't have a state if it wasn't for half of those people that are in the pension system. You wouldn't have a country if it wasn't for half of those people in those systems. How is New York's? Let me just say this as well to those judges that are in those unions. How exactly is John Gaetjens supporting you? Because I wouldn't support any of you guys. You would be all fired. And when I say trillions of dollars, the Gaetjens and Grantners own your government. My relatives have trillions of dollars at disposal. When I went to that family court, they didn't have any sense. Because you see this section, you see this book right here, you don't have a sense of knowledge. You can't steal from half of the religious people. How are you guys in Florida stealing from half of the religious people? Because that's related to Andrew and Tristan Tate, because some of those people that are their partners, they should be asking them, why am I supporting your government? Another thing, too, I'm going to also explain, this is related to that incident. How exactly how is the Congress and Senate getting their tax dollars paid? Because I didn't pay. John and half of my relatives sued you, not just in workers' comp. We sued you in federal court. Because you have to earn your wage. You can't commit employment fraud in workers' comp. You can't steal cocaine, crack, heroin, half of those drugs that are involved in these pharmaceutical businesses with the Moderna, with the Pfizer. All of those systems have to be relied on governmental resources. That comes from us. Not from you, from us. Did any of those citizens in New York sign any papers? Did any of those citizens sign papers in New Jersey? Because that's another comedy festival. How are you guys doing the thing? This is related to this system to begin with as well, with the cryptocurrency and this nonsense. How exactly are you paying your bills without not my say-so, my relatives say-so, that have investments in these banks in Florida? You don't have any money. You're paying bills that don't even exist. That's what I'm trying to essentially say to you in the second video. That's related to Andrew and Tristan Tate. You can't, let me just say this to you guys in Florida and these other states. You cannot steal from the CIA systems, means you can't steal from foreign intelligence, and you cannot steal from religious people. I'm religious. The organization I built was a religious organization. And not only that, that guy Steve Jobs related to that system with Apple, to the person Steve Wozniak. How exactly are you paying your bills with Apple? Because this system, the apps, the whole, I designed certain things like that. That's what I found out in patent court up in New York here. And you never paid me for 13 and a half years. You never paid me a dime. So who is this person that designed Bitcoin? Not John Gaetjens? I'm just going to say straight up, that's me. If you never built anything and you commit bodily injury harm, and that has to do with that Andrew and Tristan Tate person, because not only is her arrest, you're not even speaking to my own attorneys. Because all of you people, it's the same thing with that person, Sophia Stewart. You would all go to jail. You cannot steal from the pension system. You cannot steal from retirees. And that's your problem. So take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day.